Hello, everyone, and welcome to Authenticity. I'm Anna Toothman, and I'm a purposeful life coach.
Hi everyone, I'm Dawn Lisht and I am a relationship coach and the founder of the Heartful Academy and the New Dawn podcast. And today I am delighted to be here with the glorious Anna, and we're going to be talking about balance. And it's an interesting topic because there is so much nuance to it, so much individuality and interpretation depending on who's experiencing it. So what we're going to do is share our own experiences with that, and you take what resonates and you leave the rest. That's the easiest and the simplest way to approach all of the content that you and I talk about, Anna, isn't it? So let's start off with the idea of balance in relationships. And when I think about balance, what I'm thinking about is, what is the bigger picture here? What is it that we're working towards? A lot of the things that I like to think about are, yes, let's recognize where we are right now. That's important to know where to go and where to get to from where you are, because otherwise, if you don't know, you can't do anything with that. But I also really love the future visioning, the why. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? What's the point of all of this? And for me, relationships are at the very beginning of really starting to evolve into what I would call a next evolution of relationship, where the balance has been up until now very much my needs are important, your needs are important, but I only really care about my needs. You only really care about your needs. We're both of us coming from a wounded perspective. And so there kind of becomes, especially in the early days, this power dynamic of push-pull, of who gets their needs met, and conditional loving, conditional connection, conditional expectations, and resentment builds and all of that kind of stuff. And what we're seeing a lot of the time now is a desire for people to upgrade and to evolve into something different. And I think what we see at the moment is a state of transition. And where I'm going towards, and if this resonates with you, then fantastic, but it's a different type of balance. And balance for me is you are an individual, you're experiencing your truth, your purpose, your connection to yourself. The other person is experiencing the same thing. And instead of an overlapping circle together, two circles overlapping, we're creating a third dynamic, which is the relationship circle. And what we're doing is each person is coming to that relationship and feeding that relationship, working with that relationship and nourishing that relationship. And it becomes much more of a balance where you're not trying to grab or take or pull from the other person, but you're consciously interacting with like a relationship entity, like almost like a third person, but it's not. It's like the union of both of you. If you think of a triangle, you've got that person, then a third entity, and both people are working within that to create a relationship. And that completely changes that push-pull power dynamic, the power over, the power under, the narcissist, all of that kind of stuff dissolves when we move into that space, because then we're thinking we're both actively creating the relationship. Otherwise, there isn't one. It's just not there.
I wanted to say, when you were speaking, what popped into my mind was our friendship, our show that we're co-creating today really spoke to me, because I am authenticity, and you have your own podcast, you have the Heartful Academy, I just starting my coaching business, but together we're creating a third.
That's it.
And so that's what I just wanted to say, that it's beyond just personal relationships, which we'll get into more as the show goes on. And at the top of the hour, I forgot to mention, this is part 2 of a 4 series.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead, Don. Yes, I love it when it comes to relationships.
And that relationship, like, we're going to become way more aware, and we are already becoming way more aware that everything in our lives is a relationship, from the relationship with ourselves to the relationship with our houses, to each other, to our work, our purpose. Like, all of these things are just different types of relationships. So when you're thinking about that sort of interaction, you're, instead of that power over dynamic, we're working with invitation only. When you and I decided to work together and do create this offering, you invited me into a space and I said yes. And that's becoming more and more how these balanced relationships are going to be, by invitation only, rather than pull and pull and pull, or push or manipulate or coerce, or, you know, all of that is going to be, is energetically, it's done now. So we're just gonna see the play out of the discordant relationships that still carry those dynamics. They're going to start to move on out, I reckon, over the next 20 years, because there's such a desire for more love in relationships, more connection, more intimacy, creativity. And you can't do that from a power over, power under, wounded need perspective. The balance is off. So that's the vision, that's the future, that's where I'm going. How about you, Anna?
I love the way, with your accent, the way that you say evolutionary.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. You know, how we're evolving. I absolutely agree. You know, and today's show is very near and dear to my heart, because balance is everything. Balance and having equilibrium in our lives starts the very moment we wake up. And it's having the new way you spoke, the next 20 years. And I'm thinking heart over mind.
Yes.
Balance in myself, because I don't have a relationship other than with myself, like an intimate, I don't have a partner in my life at this time, but I have many relationships, many friendships, and many sisters and brothers in my life that we are learning from each other, doing just that. We are learning to have new conversations. When you said that I invited you to do this collaboration with me, there was no competition. It didn't come from a place of, oh, she's going to be a better coach. It was about empowering people, whatever they could get from Don and whatever they can get from Anna, in a balanced way. Balance comes from balance at work. You mentioned at the top of the show about your home, that we have balance in our home. And that's, you know, we've all heard the word feng shui.
Yes.
We have balance and energy, because everything is energy, right? We talk about we're physical beings, we're made of energy, our furniture, our home, everything has a sense of flow when it's in balance.
Yeah.
And so that's how I create my day. And I check in, this is a tip, I check in 4 times a day with my heart. And where am I? Am I here or am I here? Who's leading the way? And so I highly recommend, I'll use the metaphor of a smartwatch, or there's new rings now that track you. We track our steps, we track our calories, we track so much out in the outside world. But we can use that as well to track our balance. Where are we in our thoughts and our heart? Where are we throughout the day? So if I had a tip, is pause 4 times a day, even if you have to set a reminder on your phone,
Yeah.
right? And use it like a smartwatch, or set it in your watch if you have that as an app. to check in with yourself. Where are you in your emotional body? Where are you in your thoughts? And that's what I mean about being balanced. So if we start there, when we start with our balance and check in with ourselves, then we can move into community in our work life and our relationships.
Definitely. One of my favorite practices is, I think you know this, Anna, but I'm a Roma point therapist, so I use essential oils a lot with acupuncture points and emotions and things like that. And one of the most beautiful things that I found with my developing relationship with essential oils is that if you spend 2 minutes every morning checking in and connecting to an essential oil, that development of self between you and the oil starts to create that feedback where it becomes familiar for you to be able to check in with yourself. So when you can connect to something else, it creates the neural pathways and the heart pathways for you to then turn it inward and then start to check in on yourself. Does that make sense?
I love that so much that I want you to repeat that. And the reason why is because this show is for tips and ideas to assist others. And I feel like that
Yeah.
was a wonderful tip, and that you connected
Okay.
aroma and scent,
Mm-hmm.
one of our senses, to remembering
Yeah,
and connecting.
exactly.
And so, can you repeat that?
Yes.
Not the whole thing.
So, oh, so let's say this is wild orange. What I would do, just to explain a little bit more, is I would get the wild orange, I would rub it on my hands, and I would close my eyes and take 3 big deep breaths in and out. And then I would sit there with my hands on my heart and feel into the oil. So it doesn't have to be complicated. You just kind of go, okay, what does that smell evoke? What does that smell make me think of? How does it make me feel? How am I relating to it? What's coming up for me? And the ability to check in with the oil and allow it to evoke something within you is exactly the same as when you start to use that mechanism to check in with yourself. And
Mm.
for so many of us, we don't know how to do that. It's brand new. It's absolutely because like you said, we've just been thinking all of the time, thinking, thinking, thinking. And so when we're dropping into our heart, we need new ways of working, and they need to be simple, because otherwise the brain kind of goes, this is complicated. I need it simple, or, starts to make up a story. And the beautiful thing about essential oils is it bypasses that logical brain, as you know, and it goes to your limbic system. So it goes to the emotional part. And that's that's the heart bit, the emotional bit, the connection to the self is here and not here, like you were saying, like you explained. And so using essential oils that way is powerful because you don't have to think about it. And that's the point, right? So when you check in with yourself, you're not thinking, you're feeling.
I love
Is
this
that
so much
true?
because this makes so much sense. Because how many of us listen to music and we'll hear a song that we heard that was popular, a decade ago or even further back, and it takes you to a memory immediately.
Mm,
What were you doing at that time? What you were wearing? I mean, you could go on and on. Some people could go into detail. A song connected to when they met their first boyfriend, or high school dance, or whatever the case. So I can see how the connection of scent would work as a reminder. I love that so much. And checking in with the heart. It's part of balance, is part of mindfulness. And when I think of mindfulness, it's being conscious of our day. Balance goes in with consciousness.
mm-hmm.
So many of us can attest to this. You drive from wherever it is that you worked, or from one situation to another, and you don't remember the drive, that you just drove home from work, but yet you were in your mind the whole way, that you don't, it's kind of like routine. I'm asking you to check in with your thoughts, and are you conscious? One of the
Mhm.
ways that we can do is in mindfulness, we pause and we listen to sounds around us. Maybe the bird chirping outside, or the train, or the sounds in nature, leaves blowing. Is it raining? So when we pause and make it a point to listen to what's around us, it makes us stop and get back into our heart, and then bring us back into the conscious moment versus the autopilot of life, and then letting the subconscious take over.
Mm.
And so that is really, really helpful for me, is to listen. And you, like you said, rewiring the neural pathways to stay present in conversation and with ourselves. Do you have
Definitely.
any other tips you could give about how you are conscious and balanced, you would say, in your relationships, Don?
Yeah. So I would say that I have historically been a completely unbalanced person with very big emotions, highly sensitive, deeply emotional, deeply empathic, and the my inner world was overwhelming, and it felt like I was being bombarded with emotion and experiences and thoughts all of the time. So there was no balance. Balance happened when I was self-medicating with alcohol or
Mhm.
smoking or whatever,
Sure.
food. And so balance is something that I've had to learn by making friends with my emotions
Mhm.
and learning to be with my emotions and make just really change the dynamic of my relationship with them. And so balance now means that when I am feeling activated or triggered and something is going on, that I have this warning signal that goes, hey, you need to look after yourself now. You need to go and do something that's going to help you feel better. Because if you think that every single emotional situation that you find yourself in that's coming from inside of you, if you don't recognize it as step one and then discharge it as step two, then it becomes auto projecting out of you and into your relationships. So in terms of balance, the first two things I would say is, one, recognize that you're not feeling balanced. Learn what that feels like. Learn what that dysregulation feels like within you. And then number two would be, learn what brings you back down off the roof or off the ceiling. Learn what that looks like. So for me, it's going for a walk for 30 minutes minimum. I find that the adrenaline starts to dissipate after 30 minutes and my thoughts start to, especially if I'm like working through some PTSD or something. Essential oils helps, movement helps, humming. Humming is incredible, absolutely
Mm,
incredible, because it
yeah.
activates that vagus nerve, right? And that brain body connection. So humming is always part of my go-to. And then um, cuddles, if you're feeling like the person that you're with is safe and can offer that to you, then regulation of cuddles can feel really powerful too. I'm not always a fan of depending on my partner to regulate me.
Mm,
They are my partner is an added bonus to the tools I already have, rather than the thing that makes everything better. That's a lot of pressure on one person,
I
right?
love that. And it takes so much pressure off of your partner, because they're not there to rescue you, because they're still coping with their own emotions and
Yeah,
their day.
yeah.
And same thing with our friendships and those around us. Self
Mm.
regulating is one of the biggest self awareness spiritual maturity, adult thing to do for yourself is to really recognize, like you said, when you're not in balance, and learning what that feels like. And our physical body will tell us.
Yes.
You know, I know from experience, my body will vibrate almost what anyone who's ever had like a panic attack or some sort of
Mm.
anxiety starts creeping in the physical. You'll have like a sensation. And then if you can catch it early on, step away, step away, even if you have to leave and then come back until you can. And don't give up, just keep. I've been in situations where I stepped outside and stepped back in,
Mm.
waited until my mood was regulated before I proceeded in the conversation.
I mean, that's one takeaway. Like if if you want to transform your relationships, that's it. And honestly, like that is such an important point that you just raised there. Regulate yourself before you go back into that conversation is powerful, really, really powerful.
I had a situation where I live. The neighbors taunt my dog. She is a barker. She's not innocent in this situation, but they'll antagonize her. And I've been letting it, and so I feel like my relationship with my neighbors is just as important as anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And so one of the things about being a people pleaser, I've allowed not saying anything, oh, kids are kids, or, I don't want the trouble. And one day I was like, no, being being kind doesn't mean that I'm got to cower down or, not say something, because people
Yeah.
get mistaken that kindness means you're weak, and it's not.
Mm.
And so I stepped outside, but before this moment, I could see myself already. Uh, the anxiety was rising in the body. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm upset.
Mm.
I was, I was pissed.
Mm.
I could feel myself getting angry. And I
Yeah.
was like, wait a minute. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you doing? What's going on here? Calm down. So I regulated myself. It's because I caught him in the action. Like I know that kids are kids and people are people, but I witnessed them being
Mm.
mean or antagonizing my dog.
Mm.
So I waited until I calmed down, and I put my coat on and I stepped outside and went across and had a conversation. But I waited until I self regulated and could calm
Mm.
myself to have a conversation, because when we talk about balance, it's also when we're upset.
Mm. Aha. I mean, the urge to act in that moment and to discharge the rising emotion is so intense, isn't it? Like it
Mhm.
really is. And there is a kind of satisfaction that comes when you've let it out and you've yelled at that person. And I'm not saying uh, well, it is what it is, right? We've all done it. We're all gonna, there'll all be things that we do that look like that because we're human. But it's the bit after that I care about. Like, how are you feeling now that the emotion's gone and the dust has settled? How are you feeling about that situation now? Do you feel like that went how you would have when you're regulated, how you hoped it would have? And most of the time, the answer is no. And I literally speak from experience,
Yeah.
right? And so that's when you got to go, okay, well, if that is the case, maybe, just maybe, I could try a different approach to this.
Yeah.
Like if I want a different outcome, if my intention is peace and a win-win for both parties, then maybe I do need to flex how I show up in this situation, because we are powerful. Our words are powerful and our intentions are powerful, and how we show up is powerful. I'm not talking about being perfect here. That is absolutely important to really, there is no such thing as a perfect human. Like, it's not even possible. I don't even believe that the Buddha is perfect. Like, this is not some idealistic experience that we're working towards. But realistically, there are things that we can do to create a better outcome, right?
Absolutely. And the taunting has stopped. They understood, they heard me clearly. And I feel like the respect level shifted.
Mm.
There was there's still kinship. They didn't come over and trick or treat, but I went over and we had candy dropped off in in a little bag for their children for Halloween, a gesture of love, and that I still adore our neighbors, but
Mm-hmm.
no different than if you're a parent and your child is doing something, you stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to understand that's what I mean when I say balance in our relationships and balance with
Mm.
ourselves. It's so important that you don't mistaken people pleasing with balance.
That is such a good point, Anna, really. One of the things that I come across the most is that in relationships, especially for women, actually. And one of the things that we talk about the most is learning to say the thing,
Mhm.
learning to speak up, learning to activate your voice so that you can say what you need and what you like and what you don't like. That is balance. When you keep it all to yourself, when you don't say those things, it's a form of self-sacrifice. You are sacrificing yourself to try and keep the other person happy. And that's the unbalanced relationship. There's no space for that. Like, the two people are ultimately missing out on an opportunity to really connect. It's not always easy. Like, it takes practice, but the outcome is incredible, right? The outcome, you are giving yourself the opportunity for somebody to meet your needs. That's amazing. When somebody does that, you really know that they care. We talked a little bit about that last time, didn't we? About your birthday and people showing up, and yeah.
I feel like this is really another hint or a tip that I would give people as a coach is exhaustion. Because again, we're energy beings. And when we use our life force and we are in off balance, our body reacts. The exhaustion
Mm.
kicks in, you're tired, you've overgiven at the office, you overgiven in at the house, you overdid it this day. So balance means you don't have to do it all at once again, as I expressed on our first episode. Balance means I will do some housework. I'll start a load of laundry. I will make the phone call. I will work in the office. I will take that hot bath. It means check in with yourself. Make your conscious choice in your life to make you a priority. Start from there first. You are the trunk to the tree. You are
Mm.
the pillar of your life. And when we
Mm.
recognize that everything from there is an extension of you, that you're creating this. And so when we approach our day in balance, meaning, okay, wait a minute, I've just spent an entire 4 hours cleaning the house. I'm exhausted. Obviously, I didn't do it in a balanced way. So that's what I mean about balance. Approach everything with, hey, I can get this done. I can do this. I can spend time with my friends. I can get a little work done. I can have family time. We really can have the life of our dreams in a balanced way, but it takes rewiring the brain. It takes intention. and self-love and self-care, and really committing to this new way of being.
Yeah, and it really is a new way of being. And for many people, me included, if you know, when I first became a mum, um, I would have found everything that you just said extremely triggering and unobtainable. Like, how do you be a mum and look after your house and do all the things in balance? Like, everything feels like such an out of balance experience. Anyway, like, where do I go from there? And it was having my son has been a baptism of fire. Like, he's really made me reevaluate what's important and to find that balance, because I was constantly getting sick from pushing, from doing, from having to do, from the expectation, from the shoulds. So many, I should do this, I should do that, I should be this, I should be that. And in the end, I was like, the only thing that's happening is I'm sick, I'm tired, and I'm grumpy, really grumpy. So if I can find what feels right for me as a balance, then everything else runs more smoothly. And that's what, right at the beginning, when I was saying that balance is a unique individual thing,
Sure.
because what's right for you is not right for me, although there's probably some, you know, some overlap, and it won't be the same for, coming back to how you feel in yourself and connecting to yourself and saying, you know, hey, is this right for me today? Do I feel like this now? It brings it kind of full circle, doesn't it?
I call it in my one. I wanted to say, when you're a new mom or in a new anything, that's why we're life coaches. You reach out to
Yes.
Don or I, and we'll assist you to bring some balance in your life. But make it unique to you. Everything
Mm.
that we're saying is a template that you
Yeah.
get to move around all the different pieces the
Mm.
way that you want. We call breakfast breakfast, but you can have breakfast at dinner. Right, you can have eggs at dinner, you can have steak at lunch. It's really unique to you. It's suggestions to get you to come back to your own unique way of doing things in a balanced way. And what you said, what works for you may not work for me. You live in
Mm.
a different part of the world. I live in the United States, you live in the UK,
Mhm.
and our cultural differences. One of them, it was so cute. I'm going to tell everybody this story, Don. You said, when do you want to have our call? And I was like, oh, do you want to talk on the phone or do you just want to text? And then I realized you're talking about, when do you want to do our next Zoom?
Oh.
So that's what I mean. There's some cultural differences, and not just, in different countries, but different personalities, different ethnicities, just all kinds of things are in play. And what time you work, maybe you work at night, maybe you work in the morning. I can go on and on about the
Mhm.
differences, but the one thing in common is that you're the balance, that
Mhm.
you're in balance, that you're calm. And one of the things that I tell people, and I said this to one of my friends, was, you know how you can tell when you're not in balance or in alignment with your highest truth? You're rushing. You're rushing.
Rushing, pushing,
Mhm.
bargaining. Uh, yeah.
And so when you find yourself rushing, I will force myself to slow down. And I find
Mm.
that the day works out just fine.
Yeah, that's a big old lesson when you realize that one. And I think most people learn it after they've crashed and maybe had some sort of, what's it called? Um,
I want to bring up, Dawn, neglect.
Self-neglect,
Yeah, when
or
we
just generally?
just yeah, in general, neglect of our ourselves, our lives is the opposite of, we were talking about all this stuff about positivity and balance and, heart over mind. And now I want to bring up this last little bit about things we neglect in our lives that perhaps keeps us not in our balanced state. And so for me, I would say neglect can sound like a harsh word. We can use other words, but we use words to describe things. So, for instance, maybe, um, I don't know, you haven't done the yard work or finished getting things ready for the winter, or you just neglect your home, or you neglect your own pampering. You've been wanting to get your toes done, or you wanted to get a manicure, or you neglect your children for your phone. Just different ways that neglect in our lives, that we neglect things that keep us off that center. Do you have something specific that you've noticed in yourself that you feel that you'll neglect once in a while?
Yeah, always myself.
Mm.
That's from very early on. I think we don't learn how to recognize and honor our own needs. And through not being able to recognize and honor our own needs, like I need to look after myself, I need food, I need to go to the toilet, I need connection, I need reassurance, I need validation. When these are the very early basic ones. And when we get rejected or just ignored or invalidated, or we don't learn the mechanism of how to tend to ourselves, how to tend to anything. So to me, that's more about learning that I matter, learning that I care, learning that I can tend, and it's important to tend to myself. And without that, we just go into autopilot, right? And when you get into autopilot,
We discard and we overlook
yeah,
things. Or when we call like looking the other way, or we
yeah.
just, okay, well, just discard that for now. Or, you mentioned using the bathroom, the toilet. I don't know how many times as a restaurant manager I would hold it and not. I would put everyone else's needs. Someone else was more important than me really having to pause to use the restroom. And I know many of us have done that. That
Especially as
causes,
mums as well. Yeah.
yeah, we'll hold our own health, um, coughs, you name it. That's what I mean about neglect. We neglect our own. You've seen those commercials where the mom's in the closet, in the kitchen pantry, or in her bedroom closet, just needing a moment of quietness, and the children are pounding outside the door, mom, 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 or she goes to the bathroom and stays there just for a little longer to have some quiet time.
Yeah, neglect is a big thing. I think it's one of the ones you have to work up to, and it compounds. So you just take little steps every day to look after yourself, or find ways to be nice to yourself and take care of yourself. And eventually the bigger feeling of putting yourself to one side and leaving yourself to one side gets taken care of. I think otherwise it feels like, you can lump neglect in with rejection and abandonment, and those are really big. They feel really big. So you have to break it down. You have to start small and slowly, and keep proving to yourself that you matter. Keep proving to yourself that it's a nice thing to do to look after yourself. Keep proving yourself. Keep creating evidence, instead of just letting it slide.
One of the things I wanted to ask you earlier, I know I'm kind of all over the place. As a relationship coach, do you have a theme that you see over and over with relationships? Like the number one thing you see that's more common?
Yeah, and it links into neglect, actually. The number one thing I see is the majority of women that I work with have elements of martyrdom. So they always put themselves last and then sit in resentment and struggle to find a way out of that. And they don't want to. They don't want to be there. And yet it is a systemic condition that so many women in our society have learned and find some sort of very strange recognition and validation for being in that way. It's a big topic, but at its core, it is all about putting yourself last and people pleasing and making sure everyone else is okay instead of you, and making your to-do list a million times bigger and longer, and never feeling like you're good enough, never feeling like you're perfect enough, never feeling like you're worthy enough of love. So I'd say that's a big if you're going to go straight to the core, that's one of the ones I see the most of.
And it makes so much sense that you said that the to-do list gets larger. You show up for everyone all the time but yourself, and then you just keep saying yes and yes. I can do this, I can do that, you can do this, I can be there, I can pick you up, I can do this, I can do that. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted. And then here's the reflection I would get was, oh, she's fine, she's strong, Anna can handle anything. Anna's all right, she doesn't need anything from us, she'll figure it out. Anna has it all, she always takes care of everything.
Yeah.
So because you do step up and take care of everyone's needs around you and neglect yourself, your reflection back is no one is going to assist you.
That's it. And therefore, that's the loop. That's what I call the hell loop. You have a thought, you have the experience, you get the evidence that supports the original thought, and that reinforces the identity of nobody helps. Hell loop over and over. And you have to fundamentally question at some point if it's painful enough. Most people don't change unless it's painful enough. If it's painful enough, you have to question the validity of the original thought, which is, hang on a second, is this true? And start there.
Right. And one of my coaching techniques is take self-responsibility. I ask my clients to take self-responsibility, take ownership. Again, if you have resentment and you have done all those things, why? Who's at fault here? Is when we think about wrong or right, or when you're telling someone or they're explaining how they overextended themselves and they are not in balance and they're stressed out of their mind and they're exhausted, who in that moment should they be looking at?
Oh, that's a confronting question. I mean, it's an important question, but it's definitely, and that's why you and I are doing the things that we do, because to that kind of question, most people, and rightly so, most people don't want to go there on their own. It's a
No.
big one, and you need some hand holding. You need somebody, because it's like being in the brambles. It's right in the thick of it. And if you don't have somebody to hold your hand and to guide you back out of that, it's a sticky, tricky one to come out of. It is possible, absolutely possible. But you need some support wherever you find that,
And yes, reach out to your local life coaches. We both do online services or in person to assist with anyone who can relate or resonate with what we're speaking about. when the
Yes.
resentment when you're at the level of resentment, those are the epiphanies that we were talking about. You have this epiphany going, oh my gosh, I just can't stand this person any longer.
Yeah.
I just can't stand being a mom any longer. I hate this job, or I hate my life. Or we use these words, right? Oh, we hate.
Not out loud, we don't, not normally. We just keep it to ourselves, right?
Sure, sure. And the outer appearances. I remember when I was in a relationship, I fought with my partner with a smile in public.
Oh, there
So
you
no
go.
one would know.
Mm, mm,
Outer appearance was everything for me. What people would see in, that we were the perfect couple,
mm,
that we were just, and if we were upset, then it was, hiding like that. You were gonna, like
mhm.
this. So I understand the whole keep it to yourself, when you're that self-talk. And so we'll just go back to another tip. When I am upset, or when I'm in these places of off balance, because this is a daily thing.
Well, I always come back to the first two things that I said to you earlier. First is recognize that I'm
Yeah.
off balance. And then the second one is discharge the emotion before you act,
Yeah.
right? If you only do those two things, every single thing in your life shifts. It has to, because the way that you're showing up is shifting.
Yeah.
But if you're just constantly in your own little hell loop over and over, repeating the same things, wondering why it doesn't change, then you will stay off balance.
I would catch myself, if you're complain, then say something like gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Gratitude helps me come back to center.
Mm.
I'm
You
upset.
don't have a lot of resistance to that then, Anna. Like I think if I was upset and I said a gratitude, not these days, but in the beginning, if I
Sure.
said a gratitude at that point, I might have a lot of resistance. I am happy. I am grateful for this
Uh,
situation.
I love it. But there
You
is
know.
techniques. I love the way that you just did that, because there is techniques um, when we say something with a smile, it does assist us to come out
Mm.
of it a little quicker.
Okay.
Like when someone's like, "Ah, come on, smile," and you're not in the mood. And I've been there where I was like,
Mm.
I don't want to smile.
Mm.
I don't, I'm perfectly content right now being upset. So allow me to be pissed. And so
Yeah.
we can take constructive anger, like you said, calm, find those techniques, the essential oils, bring yourself back. And through connecting with a life coach or a relationship coach, through these techniques that we're talking about, can bring you some more calm,
Yes.
some more balance in your life.
And love and intimacy, creativity, connection. Like these are all of the things that really elevate how we feel in our lives. And they do start with an element of balance and a relationship to your emotions so that you can show up in your own relationships differently. And I'm here for that, you know.
Well, I really hope that everyone enjoyed this show and had some epiphanies and feel like it's something they resonated with, and understand that you don't have to do this alone, and that you can take baby steps, and this doesn't happen overnight. And even as life coaches, we have our tools and we have our toolbox, and we still bring ourselves back to center.
Yeah.
Through together, we'll grow together. We will announce our next show. That way, it may not be every week. We have 2 more episodes. Dawn is going to come up with the next topic. I'm excited to hear what it will be, and then we'll both announce what that will be. It is November 11th, Veterans Day. I did want to honor my nephew. Both my nephews, my brother's sons, are in the military services. and all of those who have went before them and are currently serving. We honor you. We thank you. We are truly blessed. I know that part of everyone's unique journey, for whatever reason, when you choose to join the military, it is part of your individual unique experience to the world and contribution. Anything you want to say, Don? Any last words?
Be kind to yourself. Practice kindness today and every day. Kindness is really important. So, yeah. What about you, Anna?
For me, it's just to remember heart over mind.
Good one.
Just bring it back to here first. Let
Yeah.
this be the leader of your day. Am I in my mind or am I in my heart?
Yeah.
Because our mind will lie to us.
Yes.
It's a funny thing. I love you. Tune in till the next time. Be
Thank you,
blessed.
Anna.
Thank you, everyone. Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.